opens up. We know we have men languishing in jail that before this great time of grace were selling marijuana. Could there be a connection where there could be some relief for those men who are there?
Yeah, I'd give them relief, let them out.
Interesting. Okay, so you're in favor of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
How can you go to jail for a plant that God made? If you're religious. I'm not religious, but I quote, God made the plant. How can you go to prison for using something God made?
So you would be in favor of immediate release of any person who has been criminalized?
Any person that's been criminally convicted for marijuana should be released from prison.
Actually, thank you, Governor. They're about to announce it.
It's the old cliche. How do you, in what's supposed to be a free society, how do you commit a crime against yourself?
Very true. A non-violent crime.
Right, against yourself.
Against yourself.
You can't commit a crime in a free society against yourself.
And get a little more detailed information about what it means to be a cannabis therapeutic specialist, also how it relates to the occupational choices, environment, and how it has medicinal benefits. So how would you like to open up? How can you teach us about these benefits?
Well, what I want to make people understand is, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I really appreciate it. The word is educate. And I practice what I call total health care THC. I have been trained as a United States physician. I went to medical school here. I did my residency as a family physician. And then I did my second life at Harvard. I did my master's in public health, learned about occupational environmental medicine, and I've even been a medical review officer. So I did drug testing. And all throughout all those years, I never learned about the endocannabinoid system. Just like you have a respiratory system, a cardiac system, you have a system that's known as the endocannabinoid system. So what we're doing is educating people, and this endocannabinoid system is still not being taught to doctors and all healthcare providers. I didn't know about it till I started learning on my own about 6 years ago. And only about 15% of the healthcare providers learn about this even right now in medical schools or anywhere. So it's really, really sad. Let's start there. And from the work I'm doing now, more doctors and other people are learning about this. And what we want people to understand is that this plant, this beautiful plant known as cannabis. Cannabis means stalk or fiber. Bis means a plant with two sexes, has been around for thousands of years. It has evolved the system from what was in a sea squirt to what we have in humans today. And from this plant, nobody has ever overdosed from this plant. And doctors in the United States actually wrote a prescription for this plant, and it was in the pharmacopoeia from 1850 to 1942. Most people don't know that. And also that the United States of America has a patent, and the patent number is 6630507. And it was issued on October 7, 2003. And what that patent says is that cannabinoids, that's what's in the plant, as a known antioxidant and neuroprotectant. So what they're saying is that this plant saves brain cells and is important in how our body ages. And yet,
there's so many forces that are blocking information like that. How do you, as a practitioner, fight through the level of ignorance that the public has, and even some of your compatriots and your cohorts in the medical field are reluctant to open this gateway?
absolutely, there's no real incentives because it is in Schedule 1. You know, most people work for a federal entity, a hospital, a university. They get their paychecks from insurance companies, and all of them get their funding from federal funding. So that's the part of where it differentiates Dr. Uma from the other doctors. What I've done is step away from all of this. I don't work for the hospitals. I don't work for the insurance companies. I don't work for the universities. I don't work for Medicare or Medicaid. I work for my patients. So I'm vested, as my son says, as a vested care provider, no longer just a health care provider. And my patients are also vested care patients because they're paying out of pocket for this medicine and to come and see me, because insurance companies don't cover this right now on a national level.
So you are stepping out on faith because it's a very lucrative arrangement, let us say, between the Medicare and the healthcare and getting these checks. So, but then how about the Hippocratic oath? I mean, at the end of the day, aren't you supposed to be healing and giving? So are they not honoring that oath? And I don't want you to judge them, but
this is choices, and this is the thing that I feel is that I didn't know about it. So once I knew, I made a choice. Right? So all we're saying is that we want all healthcare providers, just like you know about a digestive system, a respiratory system, they should know about the endocannabinoid system. What they decide to do with it is up to them. I've made a choice not to write any prescription for opioids. It's not that I can't, but I made a choice. And so what I'm saying is healthcare providers should have a choice if they want to recommend this for their healthcare patients, you know. But right now, a lot of healthcare providers are not allowed to even talk about this to their patients because it is in Schedule 1 and because they work for federal entities.
So I guess as from the masses, we have to get it out of Schedule 1 because then that will remove that.
I want it out of every schedule. I want it deschedulized, and that's a big difference. If we reschedule it, I feel like it's back in the hands of the pharmaceutical industries where, you know, we know now cannabis, the plant, has over 400 different chemicals and over 100 different cannabinoids, and we already have a synthetic molecule, Marinol, which is a synthetic THC. So I feel if it just got into a mainstream, we would have 80, 100 different pills that would each be a cannabinoid, and I really don't want to see that. I would really love to see this as a whole plant, and that's what it's meant to be used as, is a whole plant.
Wow. And you said you had a book coming up, and just in the last few moments we have with you, let us know how we can follow you and how you can make your services available.
I'm not very computer savvy in all of this, but I am on Facebook, and our website is totalhealthcarethc.com. And they can look at that, and we'll be posting things where Dr. Uma is, and they can catch up with me. But I want to leave you guys with 3 words: educate, embrace, and empower. And I believe in reach 1, teach 10. So whatever you folks learn, please go share it with other people and ask your healthcare provider, what do they know about the endocannabinoid system?
Excellent. Thank you for empowering us with this interview, Dr. Umar. And wherever you're going to be, this name's going to be ringing, and we'll be cutting out to support you and just continue to hopefully bring practitioners like you forward. Absolutely. That care most about the patient.
Yes.
Put all politics and other things aside. So stay blessed and continue success.
God bless. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Bye-bye.
Allowed on the air, and Phil Donahue was pulled because Phil also opposed the invasion of Iraq. So what I'm getting to, ladies and gentlemen, is this. There was a concerted effort prior to that war to silence anyone to speak out against it. It was done with knowledge and done by our government, I believe, because I'll give you the sideline story. When I got hired by MSNBC, my boss told me something unique. He said he got a call from 2 very high ups in Washington. He wouldn't say who they were, and they wanted to know why they were giving me a national forum. Well, I didn't get it, did I? So getting back to the original story, I flew to Moscow because I didn't do this, joining RT lightly. After all, I'll probably be called a traitor now. But remember this, and here's an original quote from Jesse Ventura, and I want credit for it. When a government lies, the truth becomes a traitor. And that's my quote, because we looked it up on the internet. When the government lies, the truth becomes a traitor. And so I went over, I met Putin. I didn't do this lightheartedly, but I did it. I'll tell you why I did it. I want to finally, hopefully, make us friends with Russia. I come from a unique family where my mother and father were both World War II veterans. Not many can say that about their mom. And my mom served in North Africa prior to Normandy. She was a lieutenant. And my father had 6 Bronze Battle Stars. He fought in North Africa, Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, Remagen Bridge, Anzio, and Berlin. He didn't talk about the war much, but he did talk about getting to Berlin and meeting his brothers, the Russians, who are our allies, and became our enemy before the war was hardly even over. Why? Because they had a different government than we did. They happened to be socialist, we were capitalist, and thus began the Cold War. Well, I want to do whatever little I can do, maybe in the name of my father, to attempt to bridge that gap and say, why can't we be friends with Russia after all these years? Let's try it for 5 years. We can always go back and be enemies. That's simple to do. Let's see what we can accomplish together. And I really question my liberal friends on this of why they fear Russia so bad. And I'll give you my last quote, then we'll get to marijuana. I believe strongly that and I'm no Trump supporter, but if Hillary Clinton would have won the election, you wouldn't hear a thing about this Russian stuff. You wouldn't hear nothing about it. Because the bad thing about the Democrats is this, and I'm an equal despiser of both. The bad thing about the Democrats is they will never accept they lost. And they have to find an excuse. I remember in 2000, they blamed Ralph Nader. They said Ralph's the reason we lost. In other words, I voted for Ralph, and that caused them to lose. Well, if there wouldn't have been Ralph, I'd have voted for whoever else there would have been, because I don't vote for Democrats or Republicans. I don't. Anyway, getting to our topic, marijuana. Or as who was it, Arlo Guthrie said, Exhibit A. In the great movie, Alice's Restaurant, I think it was in there. I got involved in this fight because it's personal. Cannabis has given me my life back. Woo! And it is not my health. It was someone very dear and close to me, developed an epileptic seizure disorder at a later age. I was dealing with seizures 2 to 3 times a week. Now, if anybody's ever dealt with seizures, you know you're as helpless in many ways as the person getting the seizure. There's nothing you can do. You can hold the person, you can sit there, you have to wait for the seizure to run its course, and you don't know what the hell is going to happen. My life was gone, as well as the seizing person's life. This person was put on 4 different pharmaceutical medicines. 4, one after the other, an experiment, because none of them worked. All had horrible side effects. In desperation, we drove to Colorado, and we procured, I guess you'd say illegal for us at the time, medical marijuana, which turned out to be 3 or 4 drops under the tongue of liquid 3 times a day, I think. Well, the trip out there, on the way, the person had a seizure. Once we got the medical marijuana and the drops started, this person has not had a seizure since. Is now completely weaned off all pharmaceutical. It's in pill form now, so it's not even seizures whatsoever, but here's the problem. Because Minnesota is so restrictive, what costs $30 a month in Colorado costs $600 a month in Minnesota. People, that's as much as a mortgage. I could move to Colorado for the medical marijuana alone, because that's how much I've been. And what worked, your health care don't pay for. They'll pay for all the pharma drugs. They're happy to pay for them, no problem. They did nothing. What cured, they won't pay for. That's why I got on board. It was at that point in time I thought, if I'm suffering, certainly there are more people out there suffering who don't have the voice I do. And so that's why I got on board, that's why I wrote the book. And in writing the book with my co-writer Jen Hobbs, where's Jen? Take a wave, Jen. In writing the book and doing the research, it was remarkable to actually educate yourself on this remarkable plant. And for those of you who are religious, and I'm not, but for those of you who are believers and everything like that, I pose the question, didn't God make it? And if you believe your religious teachings, at least the ones I got younger in life, they said that this character God gave us everything to use. Now, did he create marijuana so we'd go to jail? Was that his ultimate? He sat up there on high and he thought, you know, I gotta make something that'll put people in jail. You know, because we're human, we're gonna make mistakes. We gotta find something they'll make a mistake on so we can put them in prison. You know? And then we can support our corporate prison system today, which needs to be full because corporations need to make money. They're not about providing services, they're about bottom line money. So you need them full so the corporations can prosper, and the easiest way to do that is find people that use this plant created by God and put them in prison. Now, I'm still trying to figure out why it's an offense in the first place. We live in what's supposedly a free society. In a free society, how the hell do you commit a crime against yourself? I'm trying to, anyone got an answer for me on that? Didn't think so. How do you commit a crime against yourself? Now, in a free society, yes, you have to deal with freedom. You have to deal with the freedom to be stupid. That's something we have to put up with so that we have all the other freedoms. We are humans. We are going to do stupid things. And every stupid thing you do should not result in going to jail. And I'm still trying to figure out what's stupid about using cannabis. I mean, it's never killed no one. I tell people if you overdose on cannabis, be happy, you're going down in history. You will be number one. You will go down in the annals of history as being the first cannabis overdose. And so you have a plant here that can't kill you, seems to make you laugh, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, it could be something that could lead to obesity, and so you need to watch what you eat and exercise so that you don't allow the cannabis plant to fill you full of Twinkies, at the wrong time of the day. But, and then I always love to use it if you got a troublemaker at a party. Simple solution. Give him a joint, a pizza, and a Jimi Hendrix tape. He won't bother you for hours. And to me, I'm still trying to figure out what's wrong with this picture. I don't see anything criminal about it. Now, we all run the risk of, if it's legalized, there'll be people smoking pot and driving. Well, first of all, you shouldn't drive under the influence of anything.
Exactly.
And that's, again, us making stupid decisions, which we will do. But on the flip side, I'd rather have people driving on pot than alcohol. Because, laughingly, if you're on pot, you're probably going to drive slower. If you're on alcohol, you're going to have a heavy foot. Everybody remember the Cheech and Chong movie where they're parked on the median? And one of them accuses the other one, how fast are we going? Well, you may end up with more median parkers in the end. We think they're going somewhere and they're not. But again, I'm not advocating that. You shouldn't be under the influence of anything when you drive an automobile. That's a 2-ton projectile that can go 100 miles an hour. And you people in Manhattan should know about the destruction that it can cause from a few weeks ago. So no one should drive under the influence of anything. But no one should go to prison either. That's enough of those nonsense. I worry today, you heard the president pull out of the climate change agreement. Stupidest decision that I've seen in decades, in my opinion. Now, the good thing is, his people said it's a states thing. That if the states want to continue with climate change, with the Paris Accord, they're free to do so. Well, let's hold his feet to the fire then on cannabis. And let's say lift the federal ban and leave it a state's issue. Just like we do with alcohol. States determine the drinking age. That's why there's differences from one state to another. Now, I know we got some vets here, and I'm going to tell you something, I'm a Vietnam vet, and the most traumatic thing, I don't want that, or I did my job, that's all. You did your job. That you agreed, you signed on, you took an oath, and you did your job. We're not heroes, we just did our job.
Yes, you are.
That's all. Anyway, where was I going now, damn it? The veterans. Well, to me, we want to do everything we can for our veterans. And I believe my job, I know where I was going. The most traumatic thing I faced being a Vietnam veteran turned out, what even troubles me today, more than anything, is this. I joined the Navy at 18. I went through Navy SEAL training, Army Airborne, and all that stuff, and was trained for well over a year. I deployed February of 1971 to Southeast Asia. I did a 9-month deployment and returned to the United States late that fall of 1972. Now, when I returned, I went in at 18, I spent most of 19 being trained, deployed, and finished at 20 years old, or whatever I was, when I got back finally. And here's the most traumatic thing I think I faced. Because 5 days after I'd been stateside, I went into my executive officer and said, send me back to Southeast Asia now. And he looked at me and said, why? He said, you just finished a deployment. You required 6 months stateside before you could ramp up and deploy again. Those were Navy rules at that time. And he said, what's the problem? I said, here's the problem, sir. I said, I can't go up on Orange Avenue and drink a beer. I'm a child. I can't vote for who sends me to Vietnam because this was prior, this was 1971. 18-year-old voting didn't happen until 72. So I couldn't even vote on who sent me to Vietnam. I couldn't even be granted the privileges of being an adult. So what did I learn from that? We send children to war because we didn't give them the ability to be adults. We couldn't drink beer. We couldn't do anything an adult could do, couldn't even vote. But yet we could go die for our country and we could kill at the behest of our country. I think I got a good lawsuit for child abuse. Because what could be more abusive? They didn't grant me the privileges of being an adult, so that meant I'm a child. I don't think there's any worse, these veterans. Could there be anything worse than sending a child to war?
No.
Don't think so.
Especially uninformed while you're fighting.
Exactly.
False propaganda.
Exactly. And these wars today, it's my job as a veteran to speak out against them. Because it's my job as a veteran to make sure our young men and women today don't go in harm's way unless our country's threatened.
I say.
None of these wars we're in has our country been threatened. Because they claim 9/11's the reason we went to war, right? Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, and now we just sold billions of dollars of airplanes to the Saudis, and 16 of the 19 hijackers were Saudis. We're now arming the people who attacked us. See the insanity? And I see it, and I like cannabis. I think we need to get our elected officials on cannabis. So that they can see this a little more clearly too. these wars and stuff. So anyway, moving on, that's why I'm in this fight. I'm so proud to stand here today and look at all of you and know you are the business, the future of something this country needs, and let's look at it economically. Donald Trump wants to create jobs. Simple. Pull off the federal ban on cannabis. I just read in the Wall Street Journal not long ago, Colorado, 18,000 new jobs. New jobs. These are 18,000 people not collecting unemployment. They're contributing. They're paying taxes. $2.4 billion to the economy of Colorado. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what will bring legalization. Because always go back. How many people remember the great movie, All the President's Men? Okay, you remember when Woodward goes down in the bowels and meets with Deep Throat? And Deep Throat gives him those words to live by. Follow the money. When you're dealing with government, follow the money. That'll lead you to the answer. And it will be the money who makes cannabis legal. When all the governors and all the other states see the huge amounts of jobs and the sky is not falling, how about that lie? That marijuana is the gateway drug to harder drugs. It's being proven right now they lied, because everywhere marijuana's been legalized cannabis, opiate use has dropped. It has not gotten higher. And I'll bring it down personally. Being from the state of Minnesota, if Prince would have been on pot, he'd be alive today. Unfortunately, Prince was on opiates. It got the best of him, the pain, and it killed him. Now we've lost him. And marijuana could have been a savior there, and it can be for a lot of people. So instead of us eradicating it, in writing the book, I didn't realize that cannabis was the economic driver to the United States machine for the first 150 years. The only reason it got upended was they developed the cotton gin, and they could harvest cotton by machine. Let me say this, and I challenge any of our elected officials on this, from the president down. If George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were alive today, they'd be doing 10 to 12 years in a federal penitentiary for being drug dealers. Now, if it was good enough for our founding fathers, it certainly should be good enough for us. And George Washington, Tom Jefferson, and all them grew marijuana. It was the driving force of the economy. England needed it to colonialize. They needed it for ship sails. They needed it for their boats, the rope, everything. They didn't have the room to grow it. We did. Did you know back then you could actually pay Britain with pot? Didn't need money. Could give them a bale of hemp or marijuana and it would settle your debt. It was used. Now, what happened? What happened? William Randolph Hearst happened. A big-time businessman who owned thousands of acres of timberland, and he didn't want us using hemp for paper. My final argument to anyone in this country is this: the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and Betsy Ross's original flag are made out of marijuana. Could anything be more American? Could anything be more patriotic than the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our flag? You know, I respect Colin Kaepernick for what he did. Many people don't, but I do. But now I'm a little angry at him. Doggone it, why would he take a knee and not salute cannabis? That's a joke, people. Don't be like the media, you can laugh. The media, I used to have to tell them, that's a joke, joke, joke. I'd say it 3 times so they wouldn't take what I said. That's one thing you learn about getting elected, people. Don't ever tell a joke. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. So anyway, how are we doing on time? 2 minutes? Okay. That's Jen, my assistant again. Without her, I'd be lost. Anyway, though, I want to thank all of you for taking the initiative, having the courage, and stepping forward, because each and every one of us we have to do our part, what big or little it may be, to continue this road of cannabis legalization. This can be the economic driver today that it was years ago. It can help so many people. It can help our veterans. It can help the National Football League. They've already come out and said it will help the head traumas in the NFL. By the way, a guy told me how to stop the head traumas in the NFL. How many are football fans? You know how you stop the head trauma in the NFL? Make them play without helmets. Ain't nobody gonna lead with their head then. Right. At least I wouldn't. Think about it. If they played without helmets, rugby plays without helmets. That's the same thing. They run around and tackle each other. And no, but again, getting back to cannabis, cannabis can help the NFL. What a dilemma they're in now. What happens when a team goes to play in Denver, where it's legal? Are they allowed or aren't they? See what this is doing? The hypocrisy is so astounding. Did any of you see the Brian Gumbel thing on Mile High Stadium? It's how it's now properly named, Mile High Stadium. Well, there's a cannabis dispensary right across the parking lot now. And you can, so any Bronco game, you can pull into the parking lot, walk right across the thing and buy pot, right? So Gumbel wanted to see what it was like tailgating now. And he was very surprised when he interviewed the tailgaters and they said it's way better. They said in the old days we'd get here at 8:30 and we'd start drinking. They said an hour before the game, people are throwing up, they're fighting, there's total bad behavior all over the stadium, swearing, all the, the obnoxious shit drunks do. And they said now we get here at 11 o'clock, we cook our burgers, we smoke a joint, everyone's happy, we go and enjoy the game. So they then went across the street to the cannabis distributor and they asked him, how's business? And he said, well, it's rather strange. He said, we get only the visitors here because the Coloradoans already have it. And sure enough, while they're there, here comes a young guy in wearing his Baltimore Ravens cap and all of his Raven paraphernalia. And that's who they're catering to because the Coloradoans don't have to go to that one. They've already got it. Then they went, and he wouldn't go on camera, but he did quote. They went to who I consider probably the premier professional athlete on the planet. Never gets in trouble, has a wonderful family and father, because I knew his dad, Archie, well. The apple didn't fall from the tree with Eli and Peyton. They went to Peyton Manning, and they asked him about it. And Peyton, being the great athlete he is, who doesn't say anything wrong ever, I thought it was great what he said. Here's a quote from Peyton Manning. He said, in light of recent changes in the law, he said, my pizza franchises are doing fantastic. And I thought, God, what a perfect answer. Never said cannabis, never said marijuana, didn't advocate nothing. And in case you don't know, he's part owner of 19 Papa John's pizza franchises in Colorado. Now, I listened to that quote, and I thought, gee, what harm is there? His pizza franchises are doing great, so that means business is good. People are obviously not malnutrition, they're buying them. All because of a change in the law. Where's the harm here? Okay, I'm going to finish now and we'll take questions, but before I do, I got the people in the room I want, because now I'm going to shamefully tell you what I want out of this. I want to be the first elected or formerly elected political government official who will use his government title and endorse a strain of marijuana. No, I want to do this because if you look at the other side of the ledger, okay, you got Jack Daniels, you got Jim Beam, you got all this booze that has people's names on it. I want Governor Jesse the Body. Will combine wrestling and government. I would love to be the face on Governor Jesse the Body strain of cannabis. And I want it to be recreational cannabis. I don't want it to be medical. Because, I'll finish with this, my good friend Tommy Chong. There's not a better expert than Tommy. Tommy informed me there should be no difference. They should not be categorizing cannabis in medical and recreational. The reason being is simple. Those that smoke it for the euphoric feeling are doing it for mental health. I would rather have a person smoke a joint than take Prozac. I would rather have them do that than take a whole lot of these other pharmaceutical medicines that they're put on for behavioral purposes. Let's try cannabis first. We can always go to the chemicals.
Exactly.
We can go to them later. So there's my shameful thing. I'm up for bids. Jesse the Body, cannabis strain, marijuana strain. I want my name to be seen, my picture to be in every store in America that legalizes. I mean, I was a light beer all-star. Remember all-stars from light beer? Well, why not make the transition from light beer to cannabis? I want to be a cannabis all-star now. You know, they should bring back that whole thing with cannabis. Bring all the old athletes out and do it, except this time with cannabis. Anyway, we'll open up for questions. Thank you very much. You, each and every one of you, keep doing what you're doing. We have to keep the feet to the fire. We've made tremendous gains. But you got a guy named Sessions in there now who wants to take away all these gains. We can't allow that to happen, people.
Correct.
Questions?
Anybody has a
Are
question?
you taking it from here?
To the mics? Yeah.
Okay. A brief question. You were kind enough to give me a mini interview earlier, but just to broaden the question, right now this is a new day. There are many economic opportunities to take advantage related to cannabis. But as I stated earlier, you know, we have droves of men that are languishing in prisons, and you already commented towards this. But again, should we keep the moral fiber in this new opportunity and connecting it to
the first thing we have to do is full legalization. You know, that's the bridge that has to be crossed first.
Okay.
Once that's achieved, then we can go to the prisons and start letting out people who have only been in prison because of marijuana.
Exactly.
Let them out, but we have to legalize first. You can't let them out until it's legal.
But you are in favor of
Absolutely.
absolving any criminal act that was related.
As long as they didn't murder somebody or kill, if their only thing was involvement in cannabis and cannabis alone.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
But now if they murdered somebody while doing cannabis,
Quite natural.
that don't count.
Thank you for that position, Governor.
You know, you gotta remember that. I want any, let me put it this way, any non-violent cannabis offender. Non-violent.